Hi everyone, my name is Leanne and today I'm going to be bringing you a classics book haul. So if you have been around this channel a little while, you may know that I collect the Penguin English Library books, which are designed by the wonderful Coralie Bickford Smith. There are so many books in this beautiful collection and it is something that is a real life goal of mine to collect and to read. But it's definitely like a long-term life goal. It's not something that I feel a huge amount of pressure to do in the short term, especially as someone who isn't a consistent classics reader. Now in 2021, I was meant to read 10 of my Penguin English Library books. That was my goal, just to keep myself kind of ticking along with making my way through that long-term goal. If you watch my goals and resolutions video, you will know that I didn't do that, and I also acquired a lot of Penguin English Library books in 2021, and I have also acquired a lot at the start of 2022. But I did also go into more detail in that video into how I'm going to tackle my classics TBR moving forward. Because it's a sort of long-term life goal, I've essentially separated it from the rest of my TBR. But anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about. We are just here to haul the books. Some of the Penguin English Library books are actually quite difficult to get hold of now because some of them are out of print. They've become quite difficult to get hold of, and I was able to get hold of some of the more rare books in the collection recently, so I do feel very lucky, and hence why I pounced on getting them now. And I do try and get these books secondhand. All of these books are secondhand. It's something that, especially if I'm going to like a new city or something and I get to visit some secondhand bookshops, it's something that I have as a real mission when I go there, and in some ways it's like I'm collecting a souvenir from that place if I get the chance to do that. But a lot of these I've also got from like secondhand stores online as well. I do have 5 books that I have already read, so they're not adding to my TBR at all. So we have Animal Farm by George Orwell. This is a novella about the downtrodden animals of Manor Farm and their revolution, but of course this is an allegory and a satire about corrupt power throughout history. I read this when I was about, I think maybe 18 or 19, so not adding to my TBR. Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe is one of my most hated books of all time. I read this at university. This is a novel that is told through the journal entries of this guy called Robinson Crusoe who ends up shipwrecked on this island, and it's so tedious, like so the most boring thing that I've ever read. But I do want it to be part of my Penguin English Library collection, and it is part of my reading history. You know, it was a book that I studied at university, so I'm glad to have it as part of my collection. The Valley of Fear by Arthur Conan Doyle. So this is the last novel in the Sherlock Holmes series, and it's when Holmes and Watson fully begin to realise the threat posed to them through their arch nemesis Moriarty. When I was maybe like 16, 17 and Sherlock the TV show was at its height, I started reading all of the Sherlock books, and I think I've read most of them along the way. There's definitely some that I missed out, but this is definitely one of the ones that I did read. In saying that, they have kind of blurred all into one because I read so many in such quick succession, and I honestly don't know what order I read them in. So I think one day down the line I would love to do a massive reread of all of my Sherlock books, but that one day is not today. Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. I read this one when I was around 20 years old. I've read all of Jane Austen's books, and I think this is probably maybe like my 3rd favourite. So you know, it's pretty middle of the pack for me. But this is about the naive yet charming Catherine who is obsessed with reading gothic romance and horror. And her own life is starting to mimic the tropes of these kinds of genres. And essentially the novel is a bit of a mockery of the conventions and tropes of that kind of writing, and I found that a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, it's no Sense and Sensibility for me. If you don't know, Sense and Sensibility is my favourite Jane Austen novel. That's coming from someone who is like not that informed about the nuances of Jane Austen, and someone who picks her favourite books based on vibes. But yes, Northanger Abbey is my 3rd favourite. It's a medal position. It's a bronze medal position. So this next one I've kind of read. So this is A Treasure Island and the Ebb Tide by Robert Louis Stevenson. Now I read Treasure Island also at university. I would have been 21. Didn't love it, but I don't know what the ebb tide is. Does anyone know what the ebb tide is? I mean, I could find this information out for myself, but so how far into this does the ebb tide start? Okay, so this side, that is Treasure Island, and this is the ebb tide. So actually this is I mean, it's not chunky, but it's definitely, you know, it's not just like a short story. So I think before I can strictly tick this off my TBR, I need to read the ebb tide. So I'm gonna have to do that. Which transitions us nicely into the books that I haven't read. Now, when I talk about classics I haven't read, I am going to be very honest with you guys. I think there's a lot of pressure for people to be well informed on classics, to somehow know what they're all about even before you've read them. I don't buy into that. If I don't know anything about these books, I'm just gonna say I don't know anything about these books. I haven't read them yet. Why would I know anything? But also, if I feel like I know something, I might just chuck that out anyway. Don't take what I say as gospel. But I do think, because a lot of classics are kind of absorbed into public consciousness, like, you feel like you pick up little bits along the way. So anyways, let's just get into the books. Wives and Daughters by Elizabeth Gaskell. So lots of people really love this book, but there are spiders on the front cover. Not sure how I feel about that. I mean, it's not just spiders, there's like some plants and stuff as well, but I mean, don't correct me about what kind of creature this is, but it looks like a spider. I think this has female characters. I mean, it's called Wives and Daughters, but I also think it's like quite a gossipy novel, and I love me a bit of gossip. What I don't love is huge books, and this is a huge book, but I digress. That's all I really know about this one. But if we're complaining about long books, I need to say thank you to Miss Gaskell for also bringing a bit of balance to the situation, because this is Cranford by Elizabeth Gaskell, which is much shorter. I'm more about this energy, but I also don't know anything about the book, so I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna pretend I don't know anything about this book. They are both Victorian, and I have read North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. I read that at uni. I read that, like, God, when I was like 18, when I was a mere baby. I don't remember loving North and South, but whenever I hear people talk about it now, I'm like, why didn't I love that? Because there are a lot of themes in it that I think would be of interest to me. Maybe it was right book, wrong time, so maybe I'm gonna be coming to these books at a better time, who knows. Let's stick with the authors that I've dabbled with before. So we have Dombey and Son by Charles Dickens. If we're complaining about big books, this one really, it's taking the piss. How do you have this much to say about one story, Charles? How? Maybe there'll be stuff about London and social change. Maybe there's an orphan or two in there, don't really know. I think a lot of Dickens novels, I've gone into them at least with some sort of idea what is going on. Like, some idea who the characters are, some idea of something that happens. Dombey and Son, literally not a Scooby, not a clue. I also have The Old Curiosity Shop by Charles Dickens, and this one's meant to be really weird, right? Like, there's weird shit in this. Like, it's meant to be quite dreamlike, quite, like, grotesque. Was Charles tripping when he wrote this? I don't know. One day we might tackle these big boys, but that one day is not anytime soon. And I'm really pleased with the quality of them as well. I mean, Dombey and Son is basically perfect. Like, the back of it could probably do with a wash, which I can do, that's absolutely fine. There's a little bit of spine damage to The Old Curiosity Shop, but that's not something that bothers me. And these two books are two of the more rare ones to come across, so I definitely pounced on them when I found them. And the same is true of The Last Chronicle of Barset by Anthony Trollope. Now, this is part of a series from Anthony Trollope, so this is the 6th book, and I have the previous 5 that are all about this one town. I've not read any of the books in the series so far. The first book in the series is really short, it's really slim, and the rest of them are huge. But one of my biggest anxieties around collecting these editions of books was that I was going to be able to find the first 5 in the series, so I have the first 5, and I was really worried I would never be able to find the 6th one. So very pleased that I have, even though it will probably be a long time before I read this series. It's a life goal, guys, a life goal. There is quite a bit of damage to the spine on this one, but again, definitely not something that bothers me. This next one isn't the most rare Penguin English Library book, but I would say it's definitely uncommon, and that is New Grub Street by George Gissing. This is a book that is about publishing and the book industry, but in Victorian London. I don't know how accurate of a description that is, but that's what I've picked up from hearing people talk about this at various points over the years and not fully listening to them. But that is something about this book that intrigues me. You know, I'm in publishing, I read, I frequent bookshops, so there's something of interest in here for me. Next we have The Private Memoirs and Confessions of a Justified Sinner by James Hogg. What a great title. What are you about? I think this is, I mean, it's obviously about like religion and sin and stuff, right? James Hogg was Scottish and that's it, that's all I know. But we are grateful for a slimmer book and we love to sin, so I'm in. And the final book I have to talk to you about today is Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn Waugh. Could not tell you what this book's about, and it's one of those books that actually, I do feel like this book comes with that kind of thing where it's like, if for some reason feels slightly embarrassing that I don't know anything about it, which shouldn't be the case. You're not judging me, I'm not judging you, we're all friends here. But that is literally all I can tell you about this book. The only thing I can tell you about this book is that I'm nervous to tell you that I don't know anything about this book. So that's it. That's your lot. That's the end of the haul. All of the books I've mentioned will be linked down below in the description if you'd like to find out more about them. It might not be to these particular editions because, as I said, a lot of them are out of print. But where I can link to the Penguin English Library edition, I of course will. If you've read any of these books and would like to encourage me to read them to get over my classic sphere, do leave me a comment down below. Are there any editions of books that you collect? Are there any classics that you would recommend that I pick up next? That is all I'm going to talk about today. If you want to connect with me elsewhere, my social media is linked down below in the description, so my Instagram and my Twitter. I hope you guys are doing well, and I will speak to you in my next video.